It gives me great pleasure now to invite Sasha. Sasha's is a brand where 50% of the profits go to running innovative programs and sponsorships to help others. In 2010, at the age of 20, Sasha published Team's Big Dreams, a motivational life skills book that he started writing when he was just 17 years of age. The book has inspired readers of all ages and has been implemented in schools' curricula around New South Wales. If you can please put your hands together for Sasha. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It's an incredible honour to be here today. I came here from Sydney. I would like to welcome the Minister, distinguished guests, university executives, parents, teachers, principals, and our most amazing young students that are here today. As I mentioned, I live in Sydney, and I really love traveling. One of the most amazing parts of traveling is the plane trip, specifically the takeoff, because I find it incredible how a plane is able to defy gravity and actually bring people from one place to another. And in many ways, we can actually look at our own lives and find a lot of similarities to that plane. We travel from place to place. We go through a lot of different experiences. We meet a lot of different people. But sometimes we also have to do that at great odds and what may seem like in our lives, gravity. I actually started traveling at quite a young age. I was born in the Republic of Georgia. The Republic of Georgia is in the Caucasia area in Europe, and it used to be part of the Soviet Union. I was actually born in 1990, which was when the Soviet Union was collapsing. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Georgia became an independent republic. In that happening, a lot of civil unrest followed. So in 1993, and just before my 3rd birthday, we moved as refugees to Germany. I started kindergarten in Germany, and then we moved to New Zealand in 1995. I started primary school in New Zealand, and I actually also started dancing because my mum always wanted her kids to dance, and all my friends actually played rugby. And so I found myself being the only boy, not only in the whole studio, but I found myself being the only boy in the whole school that danced. And I remember there was one time when we were on TV and I came to school the next day and all the boys were like, "You weren't dancing on TV." I tried to say it wasn't me. But I only learned later on that girls would like it when guys dance. So we actually moved to Australia in 2001, and just before my 11th birthday, I actually continued dancing, and I've now done jazz, ballet, Spanish, contemporary, tango. I've been an extra in a feature film called The Combination, and also done musicals and a lot of end-of-year performances. When I came into year 11, I really started to enjoy ballet because I think the more you do something and the better you become, the more you want to do it. And what ended up happening was when I was in year 11, I actually went to my mum and I told my mum, "Look, I'm actually thinking of dropping out of high school to pursue a full-time study in ballet." And my mum actually told me some really wise words. She said, "Well, you only have 1 year left of school. Why don't you finish school and then do whatever you like?" Because we had a lot of friends that did drop out of school doing full-time ballet study. But the thing is that a lot of performing arts, whether it's singing or dancing or performing, is reliant on our physical abilities. And so I listened to my mum and I decided to finish year 12. And in the year that I finished, 2 very significant things happened. The first thing that happened was, now in New South Wales, we have the final high school exams, which are called the high school certificate. And we have the final high school certificate exams, which are the external exams. And we also have trial exams, which are run by the school. And 2 weeks before my trial HSC exams, my brother, my sister, my mum and I were left without a house. Because in year 11, my parents had separated. And my mum, brother, sister and I had moved out into a rental property, which we had for 1 year lease. In the next year, when I was in year 12 and in the middle of my year, that 1 year rental lease was just about to finish. Prior to that, when my mum found out the lease was going to finish, she decided that she was going to buy the other half of my dad's unit. But due to a number of different circumstances, what was supposed to take a few weeks, maximum a month or 2, actually dragged on much longer. And 3 days before we had to move out of our house, we still didn't have the other unit to move to. And we didn't know where we were going to move to. Luckily for us, our family friends said we could stay with them. And so we ended up living with our family friends and thought everything was sort of settled down. We'd get the unit in a week or so, or 2 weeks. But those 1-2 weeks ended up being nearly 4 months. And so during the HSC trial exams and the final HSC exams, nearly 4 months, we ended up living with family friends. And during that period of time, I moved houses 4 times. And for the first 3 months, even though I was actually studying recess and lunch before that, I stopped studying. I started losing concentration. I started losing my memory. People would say, this is my name, and I'd forget it because I had so little stability in my life. I stopped studying. I stopped working, which I'd started at the age of 15. I stopped dancing, and I didn't know what time I'd come home. I didn't know how I'd even complete the HSC. And then the month before the 2 final high school exams, by that time we were living nearly 40 kilometers away from Parramatta, which was where we're supposed to move back into. And I realized something, that up to that point, the first 3 months, I was allowing myself to be the victim of my life circumstances. And I realized, well, I can't keep on waiting until we get our house back and then study then. I have my HSC exams coming up in a month. So I had to start doing something there and then. That's when I decided, okay, well, I have 1 month left to go, so I might as well take every opportunity I can to study. Because it was just only 1 more month, and then after that, I could start taking other opportunities in life, whether that meant going to university or following my passion in business. So I ended up studying that whole month. I'd wake up at 6:30, 7:30 be on a train, I'd catch a train to Parramatta and wait a whole hour until 9:30, which was when Parramatta Library opened. And then I'd be the first person there. And over a whole month I studied. And some weekends, for example Sundays, there was no public transport. And so I couldn't actually get to Parramatta Library. On a Saturday, when there was track work, I'd actually spend 1.5 hours getting to Parramatta, studying only for 1.5 hours, and then coming back 1.5 hours to Landalo, where we were living. But the thing is that 1.5 hours that I did study was more than enough for me, because it showed me that I actually didn't need to study that much. All I had to really do was revise everything that I had studied up to that year. And so the high school certificates exams finished, and the day after my HSC exams, my mom's lawyer actually ended up giving us the keys to the house. And I remember sort of looking up at God and thinking, well, it doesn't matter now. I needed the keys before. I needed the house before. But then I realized that it wasn't so much about living in the unit. It was more about this life decision I had made, that throughout life there's always going to be times when circumstances might let us down or something might happen to bring us down. But at the end of the day, it's actually up to us as to how we react to those circumstances. And it's actually up to us with what we end up doing in our life. So when I finished the HSC, at that time I also applied for scholarships, even though I had no idea why I was doing that. My careers advisor said, look, apply for scholarships, and after this much paperwork, I didn't know if I'd get a scholarship after everything I'd went through. But what was interesting was that the day the University Admission Index came out, which is the mark you get out of 100 to get into university, I ended up getting 94.15. And I placed first in business in my whole year in high school. And a university emailed me to say that they were offering me a $20,000 scholarship to attend that university. And so at that time, I made this decision that from then on, I'd start to take as many opportunities as I could to see what kind of experiences I could get and learn more about life and the people around us. And I think opportunities, they're sort of like trees. In the beginning, you plant that seed and the trunk grows and tree starts growing, and those opportunities start to branch out. I was also selected to be in a leadership program at the university, and I was one of 30 students out of the whole year to be selected. In that leadership program, we had the opportunity to go to a poverty summit, to Australia's first youth climate summit, the opportunity to volunteer in executive development committees that actually made decisions for the technology that was used in the university, the front covers of brochures, photo shoots, and volunteering. And out of all those opportunities, guess how many I took of them? All. All, none. No, absolutely all. I took 100% of those opportunities because I knew what it was like to not have that opportunity during my high school year. And I knew that if I wanted to get somewhere in my life, I had to take every opportunity that was presented to me. And this is a really incredible quote by Francis Bacon, where he says that a wise man or woman makes more opportunities than he or she finds. And I really, really believe in that. I mentioned there were two things that happened. The second thing that happened in my high school year was that I actually discovered what my true passion lay in. By the time I was in year 12, I'd actually done a lot of different things. When I came to Australia, I really, really loved to play piano. And so when I'd play piano, I'd play 24/7. And then I got into cooking, and I learned how to bake cakes and make sushi, and I once even made pasta from scratch. And then I got into sewing and knitting, and I made a tie, I made shorts, I even knitted a beanie and a sweatband. And then I got into technology, and I learned how to build computers. I learned how to make websites, create 3D animation, using the software that a lot of the movies and games are actually made of. I learned how to create programs as well. One of the other things that I was doing during this time was that I was actually getting into a lot of different business ventures. And one of the things that I really loved about business was that it was entrepreneurship. That word sort of encompasses this concept of creation, where you can actually come up with an idea, and just like that tree, you can plant that idea and you can actually create something of it. And I fell in love with this process of creation, even though I only in the last year or so realized that that was exactly what I was actually doing. So I started a number of different businesses. And during year 11 and 12, when I was doing business and economics, I realized that in this world, a lot of things are actually built on business and economic foundations. If we can actually learn about business and economics, we could create a lot of positive change in this world. Something that I never understood, though, when I was going through high school and even through university, was why a lot of mentality about business was about money, about making a profit. Because the way I saw it was businesses are here today because of the society, the communities, the environment, and the people. If it wasn't for those four and everything else in the world, businesses wouldn't be able to exist. I personally believe that businesses should in some way, shape or form give back to the communities around them, so that when the business moves forward, it's not moving forward by itself. It's bringing everybody along with them. And so during this time, I realized that yes, while I was passionate about dancing, I actually want to get into business and create my own company where, well, if I had this brand, I could actually create a business in any industry, and I can do all the things I enjoyed. And that's when I came up with the idea to start my own brand, which is called Sasha's. But like Andrew mentioned, with a fundamentally different business model, where 50% of profits that we make go back into the business to grow the business, and the other 50% go back into our foundation arm of the company, which is called Sasha's Love, to give back to the community. And so during this time in 2008, just as I started university, I started to meet a lot of different people and share my story. And a lot of different people started coming to me of all different ages and saying that they were inspired and that they also wanted to start following their dream, and they also wanted to make some positive changes in their life. And I'm the kind of person, in the last few years, I just love to help as many people as possible. But really quickly I found out that there's a certain limit to how many people you can actually meet face to face. There's over 6 billion people. I won't be able to meet over 6 billion people, though I want to help as much as I can. And during the first few months, when I was still 17, and during the first few months of my university degree, I started thinking of this idea, well, what if I were to write a book on something about all the wisdom that I had learned from all the people that I had met, about all the life experience that I had learned myself, and also about all the interesting things that I had learned by reading from different resources. And 2 days before my 18th birthday, on the 10th of June 2008, I actually came up with this idea to write a book. But not a book just on business, or not a book just on motivating and inspiring young people. But I decided to write a book that would encompass as many things as possible that are important in a young person's life. For example, how is it that we discover what we're passionate about? How is it that we can go and follow our dreams? How can we break down our goals? For example, I call it the chopping board. If there's a big goal or a big dream, we can chop it into very, very small pieces and make it achievable and manageable to achieve. How can we be leaders, not only of other people, but also of ourselves? Because every single day that we're awake and every single day that we're in this world, we are the ones that are making decisions in our life. And so, first and foremostly, we are the leaders of ourselves. And when I was writing this book, over a whole month, I wrote over 140 A4 pages of notes. And I kept it a secret from my family. I didn't tell my family because I really wanted it to come alive. And so one of the biggest things that I've learned in terms of creating an idea or bringing it to life is that sometimes it's very easy to share that idea with a lot of different people and get a lot of hype and excitement in the beginning. But there's actually research that shows that when we tell other people that we want to do something without actually having completed it first, we get the feeling that we've already sort of achieved it. Because people get excited and psychologically we start feeling that we've already achieved it. So that will to actually go on to achieve it becomes less. And I knew that had happened in my life, and I didn't want that to happen with something as important as what I felt this book could be. And so over a whole month, I wrote what would become the book, and then I told my family that I'd actually written this book. And so over 2 years, we went through a lot of major edits. I gave it to 15 different people, including teenagers, students, entrepreneurs, a teacher and a psychologist, got their feedback, put the feedback back into the book, and went through more major edits. And then last year, I had it professionally edited by my sister Anna, and also by Australia's leading expert on generations, Avril Henry. And once I had finished final edit, I then started thinking, okay, what about the actual design process? And by this time, all the money that I'd saved since the age of 15 and all my scholarship money, I'd actually put into this dream of the Sasha's brand and into the book. And when it came to actually publishing the book and designing it, I had spent all my money, and that was tens of thousands of dollars. And so I started thinking, well, what can I do? And now I didn't see myself as a creative person in the sense that I could actually come up with a really nice design. And I think a lot of the times we actually limit ourselves with the things that we can and can't do. I looked at my sister, and I mean, she can paint and she can create poems, and she's a real artist. She's a real designer. But I don't design. I can come up with a lot of business ideas, and in that sense, I'm creative. But I didn't think I could actually design the book. Yet, when I actually sat down and over 3 days learned the professional design software, which is used by newspapers, newspaper companies, magazine companies, and book companies to design their publications, when I actually sat down and learned that program over 3 days and watched over 11 hours of professional video tutorials, I ended up designing the book in 1 week. And last year, at the age of 20, I started a publishing company under Sasha's, and I published Teens Big Dreams. And as Andrew mentioned, it's now been read by kids as young as 6. It's been read by teenagers, students, parents, adults, grandparents. And for me, the most incredible thing has been that the biggest feedback about the book has been that you should get teens out of the front cover, because this book is actually not just for teenagers. Because I personally believe that the act of following one's passion or our true calling, or something which, for example, Sir Ken Robinson calls our element, something that when we do it, we're in the zone and we're in flow. It's not just confined to a few people. It's not just confined to someone like me. Every single one of us here today can go and follow our passion. And when we do follow our passion, it's not like it's work anymore. There were days when I'd work on the book over 10, 11, 12 hours a day. And a lot of times I'd work 7 days a week. But it wasn't work to me because I was doing something I loved. Last year, when I published the book, I also launched the Sasha's Love, which I actually called Sasha's Foundation before. And for me, it was really important that I give back as much as I can to the community that we're in. One of the programs that I do is called Teens Initiative, where we give copies of Teens Big Dreams to young people that can't afford it or who really want to be inspired. What's amazing is that a lot of the times when we look at social enterprises, where we look at giving back to people, it's really, really hard to quantify the impact of what we do. For example, if I give a book to a young person, it's really hard to see what that book will do in that person's life in the next few days. And in a traditional business and economic perspective, giving that book away, it could be considered a loss of so much dollars. But the amazing thing is that when we help other people, it's actually quantified in an intangible way. And just one way of showing that is the first person who received Teens Big Dreams last year. He was a 13-year-old boy, and his name was Charbel. And he told me that his dream was to start a band and get into music. And this year I found out, he ended up actually sending me a letter after reading the book with what he thought of the book after he read it. And this year he actually told me that he ended up starting a band, and he was 14 years old. And on top of that, his band came second in the battle of the bands in the school. And so that's just one example where when we give back and we help other people, these things are sometimes so long-term, we don't really see it a lot of the times in terms of a straight impact. One of the other things that I do with the foundation is, for example, Connect, where we connect young people to people in the industry that are already working the jobs that the young person is interested in to get into. We've also sponsored a lot of different organizations, including Best Catch, TEDx, which I spoke at last year, Project Australia, a fire relief concert in Perth, and we've also donated books to go to detention centres and Aboriginal communities. I personally think that to give back in one's life, it's actually not that hard. It's not defined by how much money we have. I think that when we give back to others and when we help one another, it's not something that we just, make a decision one day, I want to help someone, and then the next day I'm not going to do that anymore. It's a mentality that we take on, and it's a decision that we take on for life. For me, it's been an incredible journey, but today, I think that everybody will learn a lot in terms of how you can give in your own lives. One of the analogies I used in my book is called a pixel analogy. Does anybody know what a pixel is? So basically, a monitor, an LCD monitor, whether it's on a mobile phone, LCD monitor for a computer or a TV, is made up of tiny little pixels. And if it's a big TV, there are millions of pixels there. However, if one of those pixels were to stop working and not give out the full color, our eye can actually notice that one black pixel out of a million or more pixels. And I think every single day we can use this excuse that there are over 6 billion people on this planet and counting, and question the real difference that each and every single one of us can make. But just like that one pixel can make a big difference in our eye noticing it out of a million pixels, the difference we make in our own lives will also be noticed, and it will be important to someone's life. And so today, my friends, I hope you enjoy the Western Region Enterprise Day, and we go on into our lives and start or continue making a difference in other people's lives as well. Thank you.